Eric, I think we were wrong. I really do. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of Catching the Facts, an uncensored view of D1 college football. I'm your host, Dan Sisk.
And I'm Eric Schroeder.
And yeah, like I said at the beginning, we were very wrong about a lot of things. We are going to have to swallow some pride. It's not something I like to do, but it's something that we're going to have to do. So we got Pitt and Penn State to talk about this week, obviously. We also have Georgia Tech. We have OSU, Michigan, and we have Miami, Syracuse. So, Eric, let's get started.
All right, so starting out with Pitt and Boston College.
We have to talk about them.
Yeah.
I guess we do.
We do.
Okay, fine.
Boston College wins at 34-23. Boston College had 381 total yards, 253 passing, and 128 rushing. Pitt had 322 total yards, 299 passing, and 23 rushing. Yikes. They struggled on the ground.
They struggled everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything was miserable.
Their defense didn't play bad, but Grayson James, he had great poise in the pocket. I mean, he wasn't really getting pressured that much, but he was just finding windows in Pitt's defense because they were playing zone. If they played man, it would have been fine. But they kept going back to the zone look, and he was just piecing it apart, finding gaps. So it was ridiculous. But
yeah, I think what's tough for Pitt is that Boston College, and they showed this from week 1, is definitely a program that's on the upswing. I mean,
right.
I really think that Bill O'Brien is a good college head coach.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Castellanos was absolutely the right call, and it clearly lit a fire under that team. And it, unfortunately for Pitt fans, their football team got in the way of that upswing. This program's a disgrace. I'll say it because someone has to. It makes me miserable having to talk about Pitt every week. I do it out of the obligation of the people in this area who are fans, but it pains my soul to have to waste airtime with you talking about this dumpster fire of a program. It's just I don't understand why we have to. Look. Are they getting better? Yes, they did, because last season was a complete and utter catastrophe of biblical proportions. They're going to get to a bowl game that no one in America will watch. Who's going to watch that? I have to. You have to. We both have to because we cover it, but no one else is going to watch that willingly. They have one of the worst O-lines I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
They have a backup quarterback who at times plays better than their supposed quarterback of the future.
Right.
That's not a good problem to have.
Now, I understand Holstein's young. He's got time to develop. He's only a freshman. But it didn't look great.
For the hype he got.
He got way too much hype. He was definitely overhyped.
Yeah, for the hype he got, I expected more.
He didn't play terrible when he was in quarterback, but
sure.
Then Darnell comes in and he just plays better than him.
Darnell played really well at times.
Yeah,
that is not a problem I would want to have.
No. Now, injury update on Holstein.
Yes.
Pat Narduzzi said it wasn't as bad as he thought. It's not going to be season-ending, which I don't understand why he would play him in a bowl game.
Why play him in the bowl game? Just sit him. Play Darnell.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But yeah, so that's
you know what? Let's leave it at that so that we can give Pitt fans false hope.
Yeah.
Let's give them false hope. I like that idea. Guys, Eli Holstein is your future. Mm-hmm. He will succeed in the bowl game. He will dominate. He's going to do so well. I am not saying that sarcastically. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Can we just move on? I want to move on from Pitt football.
I mean, that's really it. I mean, just one good play that Boston College made.
Sure.
Ty Clemens, the defensive lineman, redshirt junior. Yarnell just threw it right to him. Pick 6. That's his first pick 6 of his whole career. So,
do you have any great other Boston College plays you want to talk about?
That's it.
Rub salt in the wound? No,
that's
you don't.
All. Yeah, we can move on to PSU.
Well, I guess we'll talk about Pitt on Selection Sunday next week when we figure out what the bowl game is. Mm-hmm. It's going to be bad, and no one feels sorry for you. Okay, let's move on to Penn State.
All right, so Penn State wins at 44-7 versus Maryland. They had 412 total yards, 193 passing, 219 rushing. Maryland had 194 total, 122 passing, and 72 yards on the ground. Penn State started out hot. Started out slow, sorry.
They did.
They gave up a fumble.
On the first play?
First play of the game.
And then the next play?
Touchdown right over their heads.
Yep.
But then they just locked in.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of sloppy mistakes early on, which they're going to have to clean up versus Oregon. We'll get to it. But
after that touchdown, the Penn State D-line was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean, MJ Morris, he had zero time. I mean, none.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. I mean, it was just an unmitigated bloodbath.
Yeah.
As soon as it was 7-0, I mean, it was like a switch flipped, and the whole thing just completely flipped on its head.
It was crazy because they fumbled the first play of the game, bomb it over their heads for a touchdown. Then it was like, oh, okay, maybe they got some momentum. No, shut it down immediately. Just cut it off.
A bloodbath. Yeah.
Abdul Carter played great. 2 sacks, 3 tackles, 3 assists. So he's going to be drafted pretty high in the draft.
I would argue he'll probably get drafted higher than Warren, because Warren is really, really good. But, I mean, we've discussed it before. I would argue the lines are the second most important position to draft in, besides quarterback, obviously.
Right, especially with all these injuries coming to the NFL with linemen.
Yeah.
I mean, Abdul Carter would be a huge addition.
He would be.
Especially from Penn
He's
State.
so good.
I mean, we look at Penn State D linemen and, so.
Yeah, no, he's so good.
Yeah.
Nothing, again, Nothing much to talk about here. I mean, they're just kind of going through the motions.
Yep.
What were your thoughts? Now, I will say this, because this is really my only thought besides the D-line. The ending of the game. Franklin scored a touchdown on a passing play on the last play of the game, which annoyed Mike Locksley, the head coach of Maryland. Franklin's reasoning in the post-game press conference was that scores are really, really important when it comes to rankings and whatnot, and so it's all about looking really good. And not only was that important, but he also stressed the importance of getting the backups playing time. My honest reaction to that was that I can understand the reasoning, but that is not the time. If you were lining up with reserves with 3 minutes left in the game, get the touchdown. Don't just run the ball a million times and kick the field goal.
Yeah.
Get the reserves playing time with 3 minutes left in the game, and that can count as their playing time. But I felt that to line up a play with 4 seconds left, I can understand why Mike Locksley was a little annoyed.
For sure.
Again, I can understand Franklin's reasoning.
See both sides, honestly.
I understand Franklin's reasoning. I just felt the timing was bad. I wouldn't have done what he did.
I don't know. I mean, he's right. Scores matter a ton, especially right now. I mean,
sure,
but I don't know. I mean, it's.
I get it.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Why Maryland is upset about that.
I can understand. But honestly, as we're going to talk about, that was like one of the smallest instances of rivalries.
Especially this weekend.
This was obviously rivalry weekend.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought that I was watching like police body cam footage the entire weekend, watching these games with all these fights. But we'll get to the big one later on in the show. But as far as the game is concerned, I mean,
Penn State extends their win streak versus Maryland to 24. They're 44-3 versus them, which
makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah. They're playing the Big Ten
two different
championship
caliber
versus
programs.
Oregon, and Maryland will fall to 4-8. So
I mean, I wonder how much longer Locksley has his job. Yeah. Frankly, I'm surprised he wasn't fired this morning. But it is what it is. We have a lot more to talk about with Penn State later on in the show, but right now, that's all I have.
Yes,
Okay, let's talk about the overtime epic to end all overtime epics, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, great game here in Athens. 44-42 in 8 overtimes. Georgia wins it versus Georgia Tech. They had 405 total yards, 297 passing, 108 rushing. And Georgia Tech had 563 total yards, 300 passing yards, and 260 rushing yards.
What a game.
A great game. Georgia's defense could not stop them in the first half, and they couldn't score.
No.
It was looking like it was going to be a little bit of a one-sided game, but everyone knew Georgia was going to come back. I mean,
yeah,
they're not going to just let Georgia Tech walk all over them.
Yeah, no. I told you this briefly before we started recording, but I was at the 9-overtime Penn State-Illinois game from 3 years ago that obviously the announcers kept referring to as this game kept going because we thought, how much longer is this game going to go? So part of it was bragging rights because I wanted to have the bragging rights to say I was at the longest game in the history of NCAA football, or at least D1 football. And so I was like, oh my God, please end, oh my God, please end, oh my God, please end. But my honest reaction was that Penn State-Illinois game ended 20-18. Mm-hmm. Both teams were so unrepentantly awful that neither of them deserved to win. Penn State and Illinois both deserved to take an L for that game. But this was the polar opposite. Yeah. Both teams poured their heart and soul into every play of the second half and overtime. Even if the plays didn't work out. I mean, you could tell that they were pouring, again, blood, sweat, and tears into the game. This Georgia Tech team is really respectable. They got killed by Notre Dame, but they beat Miami.
Yeah.
They beat Florida State in Europe at the beginning of the season, back when everyone thought Florida State would be following up their great season.
Yeah.
So at the time, that was a spectacular win. This team is really, really solid. They're on their way up, and they're very well coached. Brent Key, that embrace that he had with Kirby Smart at the end of the game, again, for a rivalry, I loved seeing that.
Yeah.
I loved seeing coaches have true respect for each other. The programs have true respect for each other. The Georgia and Georgia Tech players weren't, throwing fists.
Right.
And also, I think it was important to recognize, and I understand there's obviously been a lot of debate over the last 48 hours about flag planting and all that, and that wouldn't have been applicable here because Georgia was at home and Georgia won. But the fact that didn't, something like that, those kinds of crazy celebrations, none of that even came to mind of these players, shows that Smart and Key are both excellent coaches.
Yeah.
And Georgia Tech is a program on their way up. They were the laughingstock of the entire sport for years.
Yeah.
But they finally got a good coach, and they're on their way up. Respect to them.
Yeah, and Carson Beck played good, too.
He started off awful, and then he got much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he's still great, but
I don't either.
He's all right.
But all his receivers dropped these passes.
Right.
A lot of it is not
him. Turnover when Carson Beck threw that swing pass to Dominic Lovett.
Yeah.
And then he fumbled it. Georgia Tech recovered, which led to a touchdown to go up 17-0 at the half.
Yeah. I was getting multiple text messages at 17-0 being like, oh my God, this team sucks. But that's a hard-fought win for Georgia.
Yeah.
Sets them up for the SEC championship game, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But Georgia Tech, don't discount them, guys. They're on their way up.
They could have won this game. They just had a few mistakes. Like Haynes King, the play calling on Georgia Tech's side wasn't great.
Yeah.
I don't really like that they were trying to run Haynes King up the middle because that one play he fumbled. Dan Jackson came on a delayed bitch, just destroyed him.
Not big enough.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's just not big enough. But
also, I literally just thought of this, and this could be way off kilter, but Georgia Tech is 7-5.
Yeah.
Pitt is also 7-5. There's a good chance that they play in the bowl game. Now I know Georgia Tech is 5-3 in the ACC. Pitt's 3-5. They lost all 5 of their last games, and they were all in conference games. Anyway, I'm not going to laugh. I want to, but I won't. Even though there's a discrepancy between the conference record, there's a good chance Georgia Tech plays Pitt in the bowl game. Georgia Tech is just, if that happens, big if, I recognize that, but if that happens, Pitt's gotta be worried. But this Georgia Tech team, they finally have a good coach. They're on their way up. So good for them. They're no longer the laughingstock.
Yeah, but to go 8 overtimes with Georgia.
Is impressive.
Respectful.
Yes, absolutely. And I felt so bad. A lot of times I like to sarcastically laugh at like people who cry on the sidelines and such.
Right.
Brent Key was like on the verge of tears, and I legitimately felt so bad for him because he really did. He coached a great game. He coached a really, really good game.
And both these teams in overtime had chances to win.
Yes.
I mean, I think Georgia had a little bit more chance because, I mean, Georgia's defense is good. And
yes.
They were sacking. Dan Jackson showed up again. He sacked Haynes King.
Yeah.
Then Beck had a wide open man in the back of the end zone. But Dylan Bell, the wide receiver, tipped it. Arian Smith drops it because of the change of direction. That should have been the game right there.
That should have been the game. That should have been the game.
Yeah. And then they were forcing Haynes King to throw it away too. In the fourth overtime, he overthrew Jackson Hayes, and then Beck scrambled away from pressure, and he tried to take it himself, which is a little bit interesting, and he just got tackled. But this was a really good game for both these teams, more so Georgia Tech.
I would agree with that.
But yeah,
it was far more entertaining to watch than some of the other rivalry games that we were subjected to.
Right.
So, yeah,
and Georgia's in the playoffs with that win. So.
They are. I mean,
Either way, but still.
Yeah, they're in. Even if they lose next week, they're in. So that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. But that's all I got for Georgia right now.
Yep.
What about you?
Yeah, same.
Okay, moving on. I should have pulled up my phone and played like a funeral procession, and played it because I thought of you, Eric. I really did when this was all going down. Let's talk about Michigan, Ohio State. Oh my God.
Yeah. So Ohio State loses 13-10. Ohio State had 252 total yards, 175 passing, 77 rushing. Which I don't understand. I have 77 rushing yards with two of the best running backs in college football, but whatever.
When I saw that Henderson only had 21 yards, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
When I saw that Henderson only had 21 yards, I was like, how is that humanly possible?
I don't know. Michigan had 234 total yards, 62 passing, 172 yards on the ground. Like this is a horrible loss for Ohio State.
That's
I don't know if Ryan Day is going to be gone, but probably should be. He hasn't really gotten him anywhere.
He's lost 5 Big Ten games, 4 of them to their most hated rival.
He's 1-4 versus Michigan.
No. 4 of them to their most hated rival, and this was the one.
This was the year everyone. Okay, this is just going to be a blowout.
Yeah,
but in these rivalry games, you can't.
I was so confident in the result that I wasn't really paying attention until the second half.
Right.
That's how confident I was that Ohio State would have this in the bag.
Yeah, I don't know if they were playing down to their opponent because Michigan came into this game nothing to lose. I mean,
nothing.
Which is 6-5.
Yeah, which benefited them because Sharon Moore was like, guys, we have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Pour everything onto the field, and they
did. I mean, that's a great win for Michigan and Sharon Moore as well.
Look, they were handicapped because all their good players left and Harbaugh left.
Yeah.
But last year when Harbaugh was suspended, I mean, they got behind Sharon Moore hard. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be a good coach. He's on his. The Michigan program will be back. This is a down year. Yeah. They are fine.
Short stint.
Yeah, they have a trash quarterback. They'll get a good quarterback eventually. Yeah. They will be fine. I'm not. I don't think this is what Michigan's going to be like every year. But this was a huge victory.
Yeah,
for them.
This was a great defensive game. Also,
it was fun to watch. If you're a defense fan, this was at least again the second half that I really paid attention to was really, really entertaining.
Yeah, I mean in the second quarter, Ohio State stops them 4th and 1 on the 5-yard line and gets the ball. They've been really good at stopping teams from 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, just 1 yard and lower.
Yeah,
because they got that good D line. They're just stacking the box, and their linebackers just fly in too. Caleb Downs, made a great tackle on that play. And then right when they get the ball back, Howard drops back. He throws a pick where Amir Hill Hale, jumped the route on Carnell Tate, sets up Michigan for a touchdown. That's just that's not the mistake. You just can't. Once your defense comes up big like that on 4th and 1, you got all the momentum, especially at home. You can't just.
That was the most shocking part.
Yeah.
That was the most shocking part. Every time Michigan gave them some momentum, they just
gave it right back.
They wasted it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that.
Right.
You know, like here's what I honestly was thinking while I was watching this. The Michigan game, the Michigan players, right, are obviously an eighth. They have an eighth of the talent that the Ohio State players do. Okay? All of the Michigan mishaps, the multiple interceptions, the fumble, that is just who they are.
Yeah.
All of the mistakes that Ohio State made, you don't have that excuse. Okay? Jeremiah Smith had 35 receiving yards. 35! This is a guy who tore Penn State's very good, not elite, but very good defense. He tore them a new one.
Right.
I mean, I was watching the end of that game. I was losing my sanity because I couldn't rationalize what Ohio State was doing. And I don't like Ohio State, as you know. I don't hate them anymore. There are more teams that I hate above them. But I could not believe what I was watching. It was insane. I honestly feel that at this point you have to consider firing Ryan Day. I really do. Because you can't lose that game.
He's not taking him anywhere.
Let's say it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Let's say Penn State wins the national championship.
Okay.
The athletics department, I should say, at Penn State is not going to care that James Franklin loses every year to Ohio State.
No.
They're going to see the national championship and be like,
that's what they play for. Yeah.
Ohio State wins the national championship. They're going to be like, woohoo!
Right.
But we lost to Michigan.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
The game is arguably just as important to that fan base and to that administration as the national championship is.
Yeah.
And from an outsider's perspective, that is, at first, like, you hear that and you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But I gotta say, when you see what happened at the end of the game, which we'll talk about in a second, you see why. And the fact that Ryan Day has lost 4 straight, it doesn't matter that Michigan was probably cheating. I'll say it. Was probably cheating in the last couple of years.
I'll definitely say it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I don't care. So, but this year you can't. You just can't do. You cannot do that.
I understand you could say they're cheating for
not against a Michigan team.
Four wins they got
with Davis Warren as their quarterback. You just cannot let that happen.
Yeah.
So that was pretty.
Really, really bad loss there.
Thoughts on the post game? We should probably talk about that. Because you're the one. Your team was the team that felt jaded. So I feel it's appropriate to ask you first before I share my thoughts.
Yeah, all this planting the flag stuff going around. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't understand why Michigan's planting this flag. Ohio State dominated this rivalry for 20 years.
Yeah. And
they never planted a flag on the M.
Uh-huh.
Michigan, now I understand this is a huge win for their program. They plant the flag.
You're 7-5, guys.
Right. But 7-5, but they just beat the number 2 ranked team in the country, 10-2.
On the road.
Their biggest rival. This game makes me really angry.
No, please express your anger. I want to hear the anger.
I just don't understand how they lose that game.
I expressed my anger at Penn State. Express your anger.
I don't. They passed for 62 yards.
Yeah.
Their defense was stepping up too. 13 points.
Yep.
You're Ohio State. You got
let the hate flow through you.
This is ridiculous. I mean, Jack Sawyer put his heart out on the field there. He got the interception.
That was
an insane interception. Gus Johnson sounded like he was. I don't know what was going on with his voice.
Also, let me say this. Gus Johnson's a hack. I am so sick and tired of Gus Johnson. Every time Michigan does really well, he was bowing at the feet of Harbaugh, and now he bows at the feet of Ryan Day. Gus Johnson plays.
He's a Michigan fan.
He plays both sides. He's a fraud.
He loves Ohio State, but he loves Michigan a lot more. He's from Michigan.
He's a fraud, Eric. He plays both sides. I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Plus, he looked like Gus Fring from Breaking Bad a couple weeks ago, and it really just threw me off. I was like, here's the thing. It was one of those situations where it's like, Gus, you knew what you were doing when you got into that suit. He had the mustache and everything. But no, I was watching the post game with tears in my eyes. Oh, wait, I didn't have tears in my eyes. Sorry,
the players did though.
No, they weren't. They didn't have tears in their eyes. The fans did, and Fox made the abhorrent decision to not show the crying fans. Shame on you, Fox. I was waiting to see the crying fans, and you didn't show them. Shame on you. Shame on you. But anyway, they showed the players. The players weren't upset. The players were livid.
Yeah.
I mean, mace was used.
Yeah, right when they brought that flag out, sure they did end up planting it on the
mace was used. Pepper spray was used.
Yeah, and then Ohio State tried to take the flag, and then a huge brawl broke out, forcing the police to use pepper spray to try and control the crowd. Multiple players were maced. I saw on the sideline some Michigan players were.
Yep. Those were
linked arms together, and they were like
trying to get it out of their eyes.
Which is, yeah. And I also saw one of the Michigan players took one of the Columbus police hat and just tossed it like 50 yards down the field. Like, come on. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, ripping the flag out of their hands and destroying it. Yeah, it was an ugly
Schroeder
scene.
Was really, really angry.
Ugly scene.
It was ugly. Bad look for both schools.
I agree.
Both schools were fined $100,000 in this.
I was going to say, it was $100,000, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I respect, Sharon Moore and Ryan Day both coming out after the game and being like that was inappropriate,
right.
and that wasn't right because it obviously wasn't. So I'm glad that they
can
condemned
agree
it.
On something.
Yeah, really. I'm glad that they jointly condemned it.
Yeah.
But I really do feel that both sides. I can see some parts of both sides, but I think that both sides are kind of wrong here. I feel Michigan, like you said, they really don't have any reason to be that grandiose.
Right.
Or is it a situation to be happy? Of course.
Oh, for sure.
It's a huge win. But to be as grandiose as you were, no. You guys are 7-5. You have not had a great year. You had an embarrassing loss to Washington. I mean, this is not the year to do that. It's a year to be happy and thrilled for the win, but it is not the year to be as grandiose as you were, which started this mess.
Yeah.
That's my honest opinion on it.
I mean, I don't know, because with those losses, it makes it look even better for them, though. Do you agree?
Sure. I mean, but it's not like this year they're going to get anywhere with that.
Oh no, but I mean, it matters. I mean,
sure.
You know what I mean?
And it would help with recruiting and whatnot.
Of course.
Because I didn't see any headlines, but I would not be surprised at all if Ohio State got some commits and some possible recruits tickets to go watch the game, in which case Michigan got free publicity for themselves because top commits were checking them out and seeing them compete. Like Penn State got a UNC commit to go to the Maryland game. I saw that headline. There were a couple other. Georgia had one to go to the Georgia Tech game. So I'm just saying I would not be surprised at all if Ohio State got some high-end commits and high-end recruits to go to that game, in which case Michigan got a lot of really good publicity from that win.
Yeah, they did.
So
I understand, this game, it matters a lot.
It does. As much as the national championship.
Of course. It's going to be chippy. It's going to be back and forth. There's going to be fights.
Yeah.
But I think what happened
pepper spray
on Saturdays,
if you need pepper spray.
It got out of hand for sure. There's always fights in the locker room at Michigan's place because they come out the same tunnel.
Yep.
That's going to happen. But what happened, a full-on brawl, it doesn't look good for anybody, especially the guys that teams could go to the NFL.
Yeah, it makes Ohio State look worse because they lost, and they'll have the sore loser mentality over them, at least for the next month until the bowl game.
Right.
But they're Michigan didn't look good either. And also, it's not like Ohio State guys. Ohio State fans, I'm sure there are a couple listening. I have one sitting right next to me. They're going to host a first-round game. It's not like they're going to crumble.
Yeah, right.
At least in the AP poll, they fell to 7, and I think that's very appropriate. I think that's fair. I don't think that they need to fall out. I don't think they need to be a visitor. I think 7 is very fair. I think that's a good placement for them. I wouldn't be surprised if the playoff committee puts them in a similar spot.
Yep.
So season's far from over. But if they get embarrassed in the first round, I think you have to start having some real serious conversations and thoughts about Ryan Day.
I mean, yeah, this is definitely a wake-up call. I mean, this is the game that should have come in, just destroyed them. This was the year for Ryan Day to prove himself.
But here's the thing. If I'm an Ohio State fan, I'd rather this be the wake-up game rather than a playoff game. So, you know.
But, I mean, I'm kind of scared.
To an extent, if you're going to screw up now.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's bad that it's against your bitter rival, but if you're going to do it, now is the time to. Because now you're going to be primed. You're not going to the conference championship, but you're primed for the playoff. You're going to have some juice.
It's almost better that they're not playing in the conference championship game. Not better, of course, but they have more time to prepare for the playoffs.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to know your opponent until after the game. But yeah, I think this week.
Well, they've already played both teams. So.
I think this week is going to be good for them to reboot.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't practice at all.
Yeah.
I would, if I were Ryan Day, I'd be like, guys, take a week off.
Get some around.
Get some. We're taking the week off. Once we know who we're playing, we'll start.
Yeah.
We'll start practicing.
I don't know if they'll do that, but. Just because this is a horrible loss.
They probably won't because, remember, the games are much earlier now. They're going to be, you basically get 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than having 3 weeks of prep, you'd have 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. It was definitely a big wake-up call in terms of the sport as a whole. Yeah. But I would argue not as big as the next one. But at least, let me say this. That's all I have on Ohio State, Michigan. Okay. Miami-Syracuse. What do you have?
Moving on to Miami-Syracuse. Miami loses on the road to Syracuse. Syracuse had 479 total yards, 380 passing, 99 rushing. Miami had 503 total yards, 349 passing, 154 rushing. They started out on fire. 21-0, and then they crumbled. The defense, once again, they don't have a defense. And earlier, a couple episodes back, I said that once Miami plays a good team, their defense is going to crumble. They're going to level a lot of points. Their offense is going to have to be scoring drive for drive. They're going to have to go drive for drive with them. Syracuse is not the team I thought that was going to give them this much trouble at all.
No.
They struggled versus a mediocre.
They threw 5 interceptions.
Pitt team.
They threw 5 interceptions in the first half against Pitt.
Yeah. Now, Kyle McCord has looked better since that game.
He has.
He didn't throw any at all. He went 26 for 36.
He had a great game.
380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cam Ward went 25 for 36, 349 yards, 2 TDs.
He was better than McCord statistically because of that first half.
Right. And I still like Cam Ward. It's the defense.
I do too. I do too. Mario Cristobal blew that game last year, where they ran it and they fumbled and they gave up. That. So that was that was kind of the wake up call. Who did they play? I'm blanking. I should have looked it up. But Cristobal, no. But I got to say Ward is legit.
Oh yeah,
he's good. But I have to say this. I have to say this about Miami. Mm-hmm. F to the R to the A to the U to the D to the S, they're frauds. F to the R to the A to the U to the D to the S, they're frauds. Who has been telling you this for weeks? It is me, and it has been my wonderful co-host sitting next to me. We told you from the get-go that Miami was a joke. We told you that the ACC was a disgrace to the term power conference. We told you that this team was not even close to being as good as Clemson or SMU. And what do you know? Fate came down.
Yep.
And proved us right. They have a very good offense. Cam Ward, every week he converts me. But man, seeing that game and then watching the Ohio State-Michigan game right before it, seeing McCord do what he did against Miami, I mean, that, if I'm an Ohio State fan, that stinks.
It does, but he wasn't that good at Ohio State.
He wasn't. I think the lack of pressure really helps him.
I agree, because he just didn't look comfortable in that system. Syracuse is the perfect system. Not a high-market team.
Nope.
It's perfect for him. So I don't mind. I actually am one of the few Ohio State fans that don't mind Kyle McCord. I like to see him succeed out here. He's playing great. So I know a lot of Ohio State fans they're not fond of McCord just because of what he did.
He lost one game.
I know, but it was the game, so that's why.
Yeah. He beat Penn State. He was not that bad at Ohio State. You guys need to calm down about Kyle McCord. Seriously, my God, he had one loss because he didn't play in the bowl game they lost.
Right.
Remember, against Missouri. So
I remember that one.
Everyone's sad. I wouldn't get upset about that. They sat Harrison. I don't know why. Wait. This is the first time hearing. Are there Ohio State fans who have bad memories of the Missouri loss?
Yeah.
They sat everyone. What did you expect would happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, my God. Every time I'm like, maybe I'm too mean to Ohio State. And then you tell me something like that, and I'm like, you know what? It's all justified. All of it.
Now, Xavier Restrepo, he actually played good. Once again, he's their leading receiver.
He was great.
9 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown, but he fumbled.
Yeah. It was an awful fumble,
horrible.
too.
Cam Ward checks it down to him. He ends up fumbling, which became a scoop and score for Syracuse's Devin Grant to make it 34-28 late in the third quarter. And then to start the fourth, he finds Restrepo, who takes it down to the 1-yard line. He got his get back, and then they scored with a handoff to Damian Martinez, which he's pretty slow, Damian Martinez. I
did notice that. I did notice that.
He broke away for that one run.
Yeah.
Which got called back for a holding, but he broke off for that one run. It was 6 yards. He looked like he was going to the house. He beat everybody. Then he just gets caught.
Yeah.
He's a big dude, though, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good win for Syracuse. Horrible loss for Miami.
That is. That's seriously. I know you're going to say Ohio State because you're a fan. That is a worse loss than Ohio State. That is. They're out of the playoff now. I mean, that is atrocious. Atrocious.
They're probably out of the playoff.
Oh, they are. And the AP poll, they're down to 14.
Yeah.
And a lot of the experts, obviously we're not going to get the playoff committee ranking till tomorrow, but a lot of the experts who I was watching Saturday night were like, guys, Miami has to drop out. So, I mean, now if SMU beats Clemson, there's probably only going to be one ACC team in the top 12.
Yeah.
Because Clemson will be, I think they're 18 now. Yes, at least in the AP poll. Yeah. They'll probably be a similar ranking in the playoff poll. And it's just going to be rough for the ACC. But they did it to themselves.
They did.
After I have something planned for next week when it comes to the ACC. I'm not going to tell you just yet. It'll be fun.
Okay.
It'll be fun to gang up on them. But yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you have to say?
I mean, I really liked Kyle McCord's play this week, though.
He was
finding receivers.
His fourth quarter, he had very strong command of the group.
Yeah, he did.
All 11 players, they were on point. You could tell that they practice a lot. You could tell that they respect him. Mm-hmm. And again, I think the change of scenery and lack of pressure really helped him out.
Yeah,
and it made him a legit player. He's a junior this year, so he's a sophomore, right? He'll be back next year. Mm-hmm. He might be able to find his way onto a practice squad if he keeps this up. He's not a starter, but he might be able to get his way onto an NFL practice squad if this keeps up. He really could. Yeah,
and Trevor Pena as well. 6 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown.
He's pretty good.
Jackson Meeks, 7 receptions, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Trevor Pena, he got open on this one double move, and he fought through PI, made a great catch, which he actually made 2 big catches in a row before that. I actually really like Trevor Pena right now.
Okay. Interesting.
Just this game, I liked him.
Sure.
Because I mean, it's Miami's defense. They're not that.
They're not good. Yeah.
But I liked how he was kind of getting open, finding gaps, and they kept putting him 1-on-1, which didn't make any sense.
It didn't.
But because get some safety help for the guy guarding.
Yeah.
But they weren't, and Common did a great job of attacking it. So.
Yeah, we'll see what Miami can do.
Yeah.
Well, the bowl game is going to be irrelevant, but we'll see what happens next year. Obviously, not having Ward, Cristobal not being a very good coach.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, and I mean, even though this is a bad loss, it's their defense. I really like Cam Ward still.
The more I watch him, the more I like him.
Yeah.
The more I watch him, the more I like him. I think he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's worthy of being like a top 10 pick. He will.
No.
He will be.
You think so?
I think he will be. I don't think he should, but I think he will be picked top 10.
This quarterback class isn't.
It's not good
not
at
the
all.
best.
And when Schroeder is considered your best
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
my God, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But okay, that's all I have on that game. What about you?
Yeah. So
okay,
now for the
time to talk about conference championship games. This will be fun. We're both going to provide some predictions. We're both going to be providing our basic thoughts. As for Mountain West, we're not going to go in depth about that, but I think we both assume Boise will beat UNLV. UNLV's pretty good. They're ranked, but Ashton Jeanty is he's so
really,
good.
He's really good.
So
he's the runner-up for the Heisman at the moment.
Travis Hunter will win.
He's going to win.
He'll win. And he deserves it.
Yeah.
But Jeanty is legit. The Boise will win, and they'll be number 10 or 11. We know how that's going to go.
Boise State, they already have a 68% chance to win this one, according to ESPN.
Already?
Yeah, 68%.
Really?
So the 11 versus the 22. Boise State was very close to going undefeated, actually.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't really have a crazy tough schedule, but they almost beat Oregon early in the year when they weren't ranked.
Yeah.
They lost 34-37.
That's a hard-fought loss.
Yeah. So, and all because of Ashton Jeanty. He's really good. He has 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
28 TDs. So.
He's close to. I don't think he's going to pass it, but he got close to Barry Sanders' record, which is impressive. But yeah, we're not going to go too super in depth with Mountain West because there's not much to say.
Now,
we're going to talk about largely Power 4. What were you going to say, Eric?
UNLV did play Boise State this year. They lost 29-24, so that's a close game.
It's not it's a one-score game, so So maybe UNLV will put up a fight.
Yeah.
We'll see. Again, we'll talk about the game next week, definitely, because that'll be one of the games we pay attention to. But right now, we're going to focus on Power 4 because that's where a lot of the big discussion is going to come from.
Yeah, so Boise State's probably going to win that one. It'll be close, but yeah.
Okay, ACC. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so
SMU Clemson. Somehow Clemson got into this game.
Yeah, they got lucky. They got saved.
Yeah, they lost a really rough game to South Carolina, a hard-fought loss. I mean, that's a backbreaker, man. How you let Lenore Sellers run like that?
Yeah.
It's just, whew. But yeah, I've been saying for a while that I really feel Clemson is like the best team in this conference. That being said, I think SMU wins this game because the only game where they struggled was the 6-turnover game against Duke.
And
other
then
than
bounce right back and be Pitt.
Other than that, SMU is their offense. Oh man, that is a good offense.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to. It's going to be tough. Now, obviously, they have the longer flight to Charlotte from Clemson, but flying from the central U.S. to the East Coast isn't awful.
No.
And yeah, my guess is SMU wins this game.
So at the moment, they have a 53% chance to win. SMU does.
That I can see that. I believe that's the second closest odds of the championship games behind the Big Ten. Big Ten, it's like 51%. But yeah, no, I can see that because seriously, Clemson, despite their record, I know they got killed by Georgia.
That's first game of the year, though. So
yeah, I know it's early days, but South Carolina, they played hard, and that South Carolina team is good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like, and Louisville is solid. So it's not like they're losing to scrubs.
Not terrible losses.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
SMU's loss is good though. It's BYU.
That's a good
they
loss.
They lost 18-15. Then every other win is good. So.
Yeah. SMU is good. We'll see what happens. My guess is SMU because I think at the end of the day, the offense for SMU is just gonna carry them.
Yeah.
But honestly, I really feel Clemson. If we're talking like on paper physicality, they are the best team in the ACC, and this is Dabo's chance to prove that, and we'll see if he does.
Now, say Miami did win this game the other day. Yep. Do you think they beat SMU? I personally don't. Just because
I don't think so. I think SMU would kill Miami.
Yeah.
If Syracuse can do that to Miami, SMU can do that to Miami.
Just because of their defense.
Yeah.
Offense-wise, sure, but defense it's no match.
I agree.
SMU's defense is solid. So
now here's the big question. Number 12 for the playoff. It's going to come down to, do you put in let's say Clemson wins the game, because this is the only way this scenario comes up. Do you put in SMU, or do you put in one of the 3-loss SEC teams? That will be Alabama, that will be South Carolina, and that will be, I'm blanking on one of the teams, Ole Miss. What do you do?
Well,
do you put in SMU?
First of all, it depends on how close the game is. If it's like a 2-score game, maybe, sure. Yeah. But that's a really tough call. Only really one of those teams stand out to me to put in, and it's South Carolina.
I agree.
Alabama has some terrible losses. And
that 3-point game against Oklahoma, that should kill them automatically.
They should be out. I know Alabama bias, but it doesn't
That's
matter.
Honestly, I bring that question because I am terrified that the committee is going to force Alabama in. I am legitimately terrified that that's what they're going to do.
And then Ole Miss, I mean, nobody wants to see Jackson Thor in the playoffs.
No one wants to see that.
Especially after that last game.
Not after Florida. That was rough.
Yeah, that Florida game was horrible.
They won this week, but it was Mississippi State whoopie-doo. That's why I asked the question, because I just do not want Alabama in.
Yeah, I mean, but if Clemson does lose, I think it's South Carolina. I mean, they're the best 3-loss team.
Well, if Clemson loses, they're going to stay below, because remember, they lost the game. So right now they're number 18.
Sorry, if Clemson wins, sorry.
So, but if Clemson wins, I agree with you. I think it should be SMU.
Yeah.
But my gut tells me SMU wins, which will result in one ACC team.
Yep.
I'd like to start a campaign, Eric.
Okay.
I'd like to start a campaign to formally contract the Atlantic Coastal Conference from existence. We couldn't do it with the Pac-12 because I don't know if anyone's been... We should have covered this on the show. I honestly completely forgot to do it. The Pac-12 survived. They lost everyone. They got an 8th team in Gonzaga, but Gonzaga doesn't have football.
Right.
So even though the Pac-12 will remain a conference, they're not going to be considered an FBS school. Mm-hmm. They're going to be considered FCS.
Yeah.
Man, what a fall from grace. And you know what? You know what the kicker is? The ACC is going down the same path. Yeah. If you can only get one team in the top 12, and the Big 10's the Big 12 is going down the same path as well. We'll get to the Big 12 in a second. That's really bad.
Yeah.
One team from the ACC and one team from the Big 12. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's bad. But yeah, I think it'll be SMU.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to Big 12. Let's just get them out of the way. We'll see the Big 2 for last.
All right.
Arizona State, Iowa State. I watched a good portion of the Iowa State game Saturday night. That's a solid team.
Yeah.
They're a really solid team. They play K-State hard, and they pulled out the victory in really rough snow conditions.
Right.
They have better talent than Arizona State, but Arizona State has so much momentum.
Yeah.
From being
They're on fire right now.
Such a low underdog
in
the Big 12. To come back the way they have and make the conference championship game, I suspect that they are going to carry that momentum and win the game.
I mean, the huge win versus Kansas State and BYU the next week.
Yeah, those are two big ones.
Huge, and then just destroying Arizona with that momentum.
Yeah.
And before, in the preseason polls, Arizona was ranked pretty high, which I'm surprised Arizona State instead of Arizona.
I mean, Arizona State and Colorado, they were really, really they were not considered to be conference players at all, and they ended up being 2 of the 3 top schools in the conference. I mean, that's an incredible accomplishment. Do you have odds on that by any chance, that game? Because I didn't see any odds. But again, my gut tells me, without hearing any odds, my gut tells me that Arizona State's going to carry that momentum to victory.
As of right now, Iowa State is a 55% chance to win.
Okay.
But that's pretty close, though.
I can understand that. Because Iowa State is a really solid team.
Yeah.
But my gut is that my gut tells me momentum will carry this.
Yeah, and Iowa State, they lost to Texas Tech and Kansas.
Kansas had a run there. I mean, they finished with a losing record, but they had a run there in the middle of the season where they were unstoppable.
Yeah, even like in the beginning of the year, too.
Yeah. Now, here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Say Iowa State wins.
Okay.
Do you have no Big 12 team? Because Iowa State, they are ranked 16. I mean, do you move them up to 12? I feel like you have to, right?
Yeah. The playoff committee really has a really tough choice to make between all these teams. It's going to be hard.
I think the Big Ten teams are locked. The question is how many ACC, which Big 12, and then do any 3-loss SECs sneak in?
I hope not, but they might.
They shouldn't. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
Never know.
In my personal opinion, it should be what it is right now, where we have one ACC and one Big 12.
Yeah.
That's what I think it should be, and it should be the conference champion. Because I just feel those two conferences are so far inferior to the Big Ten and SEC.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But we'll see.
But I agree, though. Arizona State, they could definitely – I mean, this game obviously could go either way.
I know.
Arizona State's got way more momentum than Iowa State.
I agree.
So, I mean –
my gut tells me Arizona State. That's my
even though they're not favored, but I think they're ranked higher, but doesn't rank –
Isn't it awesome that all of these conference championship games are, like – so close in terms of odds? Like, no one really, really understands what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I like that.
I agree.
It definitely leaves you guessing.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on to Big Ten.
Yep.
We'll move on to the Big Ten championship game where Oregon is playing Ohio State. Wait, what? Penn State? How did they get into this game? That was my honest reaction on Saturday when I saw this unfold. I was like, how in the name of all that is holy did Penn State get into this game? I don't understand it, Eric. I don't get it.
Yeah.
How did this team, with one of the most inconsistent offenses you can watch?
Well, surprisingly, Penn State's favored in this game. 53%.
They are. Look, here's the reality. These teams haven't played each other since '95. No one knows what to expect. Vegas doesn't know what to predict.
Yeah.
That's why the odds are what they are. So no one knows what to expect in this game. I think Oregon is vulnerable.
I agree.
They almost lost to Ohio State. Probably should have if Will Howard didn't slide too late.
Which they're not proving anything, especially with that loss. So
yeah. And struggling against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think it's also really important to note that I think that this was a real byproduct of the Wisconsin game. Oregon has had to cross the country quite a bit. I think of all the new additions to the Big Ten, they're the one that really struggled with that. They had to go to Michigan. Oh, sorry, they had to go to Michigan, not Michigan State.
Yep.
But they had to go to Michigan. They had to go to Wisconsin.
They had to go to Purdue.
They had to go to Purdue. You're right. Those are flights, and obviously, Big Ten championship games in Indianapolis, and that's another flight for them.
Yep.
That's not an hour flight. That's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
And the third time that they traveled, they showed some holes against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I'm not. But here's the thing: if you're Penn State and James Franklin, you can't rely on that. You can't just you can't rely on Oregon being tired.
Right. That's not.
Andy Kotelnicki, the Oak, the offense coordinator, and then Tom Allen, the defensive coordinator, they're going to have the game plans of their lives. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to play an extremely strong game if they want a chance. My gut prediction is Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that they're definitely vulnerable.
Yes, but Penn State is just as vulnerable, if not more.
Yeah, you could definitely make that argument.
They almost lost to Minnesota.
USC, they almost lost, and they won in overtime.
Yeah.
That's not a good win.
It's not.
Penn State fans were actually happy about that win, too, which...
They shouldn't have been.
No. They almost lost to Minnesota just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But Oregon, I mean, they almost lost to Boise State.
They did.
They're good now, but that was almost a bad loss.
Yep.
Then they beat Idaho by 10 in the first game of the season, which that's not good.
Yeah, Idaho. They killed Illinois, and Illinois is a good win. Illinois got a good win. Illinois is solid. Obviously, Ohio State.
I don't even know if Ohio State's
That's a great win. Are you kidding me? That's a great win for Oregon, beating Ohio State. But Ohio State's a top 10 program.
I don't know.
Wow. Ohio State fans proving yet again that they're more pessimistic than Penn State fans. I didn't know that was possible. I thought I was the most pessimistic person that hosted this show. I guess I'm wrong.
I mean, it's a good win, of course, but only winning by one and then whatever. Yeah. But also on the other side, Penn State losing to Ohio State 20-13.
Yeah. But the game was not as close as that score suggested.
No, not at all.
You know,
Allen only had 146 yards.
Yeah,
Warren,
awful game.
He was the highest rusher for 47.
I'm not going to crash out again on air. We're going to not talk about that game. But yeah, no, I feel that I think Oregon will win this. I really do.
Just two shaky quarterbacks going up against each other.
You think Gabriel's that shaky?
I do.
I think the program's shaky, but I don't think it's as much on Gabriel, to be honest with you. I think Gabriel's a solid college QB.
He's solid. He's not great.
That's fair.
I think he's good.
Would you say the same about Aller? Yeah. Solid, not great?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
Yeah.
Now, Gabriel, he has 3,000 yards, but he also has Tez Johnson as a receiver.
Sure.
I'm not taking that away from him. 3,000 yards, that's great.
He's a great receiver.
That's just good recruiting.
I mean, look what Harrison did for McCord.
Right. Like, you can't. You can't.
You
really,
know? That's how it goes all the time.
Right. If you have a good receiver, it's going to boost your yards, but that's not his fault. And it benefits him.
Yeah.
Drew Aller, he doesn't have a weapon as much as Dylan Gabriel at receiver. Now
he doesn't. He has no receivers.
You can make a case for Tyler Warren, but he's a tight end.
He has no wide.
No wide receivers.
No wide receivers.
He has people that can catch the ball.
He has people. Yes,
but he does not have that threat.
Yep.
He has
down the sideline
backfield that can catch like Singleton and.
He has no sideline threat. None.
Right.
No sideline threat at all.
Yeah. And Oregon has great DBs as well. Like
They do.
So.
I mean, here's the key for Oregon: stop Warren, win the game. Yep. There you go. There's your game plan.
James Franklin.
Because Singleton and Allen are good, but they're not good enough to carry the offense themselves. You need Warren to be. You need Warren to have a game on par with his USC game.
For sure. Yeah.
To win that game, and I just don't see that happening.
It's a much tougher opponent. So it's going to be tough for Tyler Warren to kind of get going.
Yeah.
James Franklin's got to utilize him.
Yeah.
He has been recently, which I really like. I like to see Tyler Warren get involved in this offense. Because he wasn't. He was, like, neglecting him almost for, like, a lot of the season.
Yep.
He would have a great game, then the USC game, then Ohio State just gets shut down.
Yeah.
So, I do think Oregon will win this game. It's going to be close because I don't think Oregon's as good as people are saying.
I agree. I'm not saying Penn State will get blown out.
No.
But I think that when the lights are brightest and the time for a clutch play arrives, I think Aller and Franklin will crumble like a house of cards. And until I'm going to continue to say that until they beat a legitimate top opponent. They have yet to beat an elite opponent. They haven't beaten an elite opponent in 8 years. And it was because of a fluky blocked punt.
Right.
So I'm sorry for being pessimistic, but I feel it's very apropos when this team has yet to prove that they can beat an elite opponent. Right. So right now I'm going to go with Oregon over Penn State.
Yeah, and I also really like the way that Oregon has adapted to the new conference. I mean,
it's impressive.
It really is.
Dan Lanning is such a good coach.
And then just literally, I mean,
Yep.
they won every game.
Yep.
Beating Michigan State, Ohio State, great win. Michigan killed them.
Couldn't agree more.
So the way they adapted is really, really impressive.
Yep.
And if they win this game, this is a really, I mean, this is like, is this the year? Could this be the year?
For Penn State.
For
or
Oregon,
you mean
if
for
they
Oregon?
win,
If they can, if they win in Indianapolis, they're going to have the easiest bracket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're going to come in as the 1 seed.
Yeah. So, you know what? There's enough chaos that's going to happen in the first and second rounds because of because all the teams are flawed.
Yeah.
Every single team in the top 12 is flawed to some extent.
For sure.
There's a very good chance that there's a lot of chaos in the bottom 3 brackets.
Yeah.
And that creates a situation where being the 1 seed is huge.
Oh, yeah. Huge advantage. You get the bye.
I mean, but honestly, I feel that obviously the top 4 are getting the bye, and that's a huge advantage. But I feel that being the 1 seed instead of a 2, 3, 4, that is a huge, huge advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think being the 1 seed specifically, not necessarily getting the bye that the top 4 teams are getting, but I think being the 1 seed in particular, that is huge. I think there's a real good chance that if they win this game tomorrow and do it win this game next week, and do it decisively, that will make
the national championship.
I agree.
Which I would really like to see that another Big Ten team succeeding.
As a Georgia fan, seeing Dan Lanning move on to a different team and win a national championship. Yeah. I mean, that's why, as a Penn State fan, I'm rooting for Manny Diaz at Duke. I hope he does well.
Yeah.
You know, I had nothing against him.
That program isn't bad.
You know, they're on their way up to 9-3.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm guessing Oregon.
Yeah, it's going to be close though. So up in the air, but probably Oregon.
Yeah.
That's
all I have on that game. What about you?
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Finally, SEC. The rematch that I think in our guts a lot of us knew would happen.
Yep.
I think we all kind of suspected.
Yeah.
That it would be Georgia Texas to an extent. Obviously Georgia killed this team last time they played, but Texas has had mixed results since then. I mean, the Texas A&M victory was a defensive showcase, but the offense was pretty good.
Ewers had 218 yards, and then Wisner had 186 rushing yards. So, I mean, not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, 17-7. Okay. You know, it is what it is. Arkansas wasn't a great win. I mean, they only won by 10 against an Arkansas team that's very average.
Beat Vanderbilt by 3.
And Vanderbilt's pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. So,
Destroyed Florida. I mean, look, Texas is making a case for themselves, even though they lost to Georgia. I mean, this is going to be one of those games where they kind of bounce back.
Yeah, I think
Georgia,
the game's going to be much closer than it was last time.
Right now, they have a 61% chance.
Texas?
According to ESPN, to win this game.
That makes sense to me because Georgia has really struggled.
Recently, they really have.
They have not been the program that everyone...
They did. Now, they have 2 losses right now. It's Alabama, which that's not a very good loss, and then Ole Miss.
It's not an atrocious loss, but it's not a great one either.
Yeah, and then Ole Miss as well. But they beat Tennessee.
I mean, they lost to both of the 3-loss SEC teams that are on the bubble.
Yeah,
and probably aren't going to get in.
But and then after last week as well, just the other day, Georgia Tech 8 overtimes with Georgia Tech.
And Georgia Tech's not awful, but still, 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech is still
bad.
on the surface. That is not a good look at all.
No, it's not.
Know? So
now. Weeks probably had a good win against Tennessee, like I said, 31-17. They've been good this year. Georgia they won 13-12 against Kentucky. All these teams, I mean, we've been saying it for weeks. All these teams, there's no one clear-cut team.
There isn't.
This game's going to be really close. I think Texas is going to win this game just because...
My gut tells me that Texas is going to rebound.
They have the momentum right now, and... Especially, I mean, Georgia's got a lot to think about after that.
My gut.
They got to move quickly, though.
My gut tells me that they're going to come back and win.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, that's pretty much all I have on that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is it. So our final predictions, we're saying SMU wins ACC. We are saying Arizona State wins Big 12. We're saying Oregon wins Big 10. And we're saying Texas wins the SEC. Those are going to be 4 fun games. Well, that's not true. The Big 10 and SEC games are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
The Big 12 and ACC games, watching them is going to be the equivalent of watching paint dry. It's going to be so much fun to rip on them next week. I have to say it, Erica. It's not fun to watch these conferences. It's not fun to watch. But we'll watch them for you guys because we love you and we want to give you a good show. Isn't that right?
That's right.
We're going to suck it up and we're going to watch this garbage to entertain you. We do it for the greater good. But so the current plan right now, guys, is that next week, obviously we're going to be paying attention to Mountain West to a less extent, but largely the Power 4 Conference Championship games. We'll be doing an early show on Sunday. We're going to record it very early on Sunday, probably midday, like 11, 12 o'clock. And then we are going to be reacting live to the Selection Sunday broadcast, where we will watch the top 12 teams get chosen live on air. So you're going to see our live reaction to that. Or rather, you're going to hear it. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a lot of fun. It'll probably be a little long. We're gonna time it so that the show doesn't go for too long because we don't want to sit and yap while we watch these teams announced, because that's not fun to listen to. But we're gonna have a lot of fun breaking it down, and we'll provide you with an extensive preview of the playoff before we all leave for holiday break. It's going to be a fun show, Eric. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time breaking down the 4 games. We'll have a great time previewing the playoff. But that's all I have for this week. What about you?
Me too.
So that has been episode 7 of Catching the Facts, this podcast here on WSVC Radio. Until then, I'm your host, Dan Sisk.
And I'm Eric Schroeder.
And we will see you next week.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Matt Boyer, station manager of WSVC Radio. If you like what you're listening to, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to be notified with all of our newest updates. Every day, one of our shows is releasing a new episode. Stick around and stay tuned.